This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 501 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by FeedXL.com. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from TheHorse.com's weekly horse health report on the Horses in the Morning Show. Today's tip is the who, what, where, why, and when of vaccines. But first, a word about today's sponsor, FeedXL. When you go to FeedXL.com, you can get all of the nutritional information you need to make sure your horse has a healthy, balanced diet. Just log on and tell FeedXL about your horse. Everything from age and activity level to nutrition-related diseases or conditions. Then, tell FeedXL about your horse's complete diet, and I mean complete. Entering Sweet Feed 12% protein just won't cut it at FeedXL. You can enter the brand, formula, and quantity of exactly what your horse is eating, and then see the results. FeedXL does all the math, all the nutritional science, and gives you an accurate picture of what your horse is really eating, whether his nutritional needs are being met or exceeded. And as if that wasn't enough, FeedXL has forums where you can interact with other FeedXL members, fantastic mini articles about horse nutrition that are quick and fun to read, and a cost calculator where you can figure out just how much that nutrition is costing you. And who doesn't want to know that? Go to FeedXL.com today and discover for yourself why smart horse folks from all over use it to be absolutely sure they're feeding their horses exactly what they need in the most cost-effective way possible. And we've got a newsflash. FeedXL.com has been awarded Best Software Product Servicing the Agricultural Industry by the Australian Business Awards. Congratulations, FeedXL.com, and enjoy today's tip.
How vaccines work, just to give us a little bit of basics for this discussion. Dr. Jones, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Without getting too technical, there's two cells, helper T cells, helper B cells, that we reactivate with the vaccine. So what that all means is they're part of the immune system of the horse's body as well as our body. And when you give a vaccine, it stimulates those cells to make antigens against or protectors against those diseases and helps the horse fend off those diseases. If that's as simple as I can make it. Boosting the immune system is the whole idea. And I want to just make a comment right off the bat that vaccine alone, though, is not sufficient for prevention of infectious diseases. We need to do other good management practices, things like that, so such as going to shows and not going nose-to-nose with horses that have snotty noses and getting your mosquito pools dumped out in the summertime, like your empty your buckets that are full of water that are not being used need to be dumped out. Old tires that might be filling up with water need to be dumped out. Run-out areas that are filling up with water need to be filled in with mud or dirt, that kind of thing. But that was my 2 cents worth. It's to boost the immune system in the horse, and each horse has a different level of immune system, just like the humans do.
So even with vaccines, they can still get a disease but you can cut the risk of that, is what you're saying.
Yes. Vaccines are meant to increase the prevention, but if you don't take other risks or other prevention, the risk still will be elevated for your horse. If you live in the swamp here in Florida is my best example. When West Nile broke out, we actually had West Nile vaccine fairly quickly, which we're all blessed about having that here in the United States. When we started to vaccinate some of these horses, some were still getting the West Nile disease because they lived in the swamp, they had no barn to go into, and they were just getting covered by mosquitoes. They're age-related, they were older horses, they were younger horses. Those are the ones we were seeing that were getting the disease in severe fashion, even though they were being vaccinated.
So in other words, for disease prevention, we really need to think about 2 different things. One is reducing the amount of challenge or exposure that your horse has to that disease by the things you're talking about, not going nose-to-nose with sick horses, reducing the mosquito pools. And then the vaccines are just another part of that to enable your horse to fend off whatever disease he is exposed to.
Yes, basically vaccine alone in the absence of good management is not sufficient for prevention of the disease. You just can't rely on that vaccine.
Right. And there are a ton of vaccines out there. Which ones are considered to be the ones you got to have? Which are the core vaccines?
The AAEP has put out a recommendation for all veterinarians and horse owners, and you can go on the AAP.org website to see these. But the core vaccinations are the tetanus, Eastern and Western equine encephalomyelitis, West Nile virus, and rabies. Reason for that? All those can be transferred to humans, or humans not transferred to them, but humans can get them. We can get rabies from a horse. West Nile and the encephalitis diseases we cannot get from the horse, but we can get from the mosquitoes that have affected our horse. So if your horse is in your backyard, comes down with encephalitis, that means there are mosquitoes carrying that virus in your backyard.
All right. And let's talk a little bit about vaccine reactions, because that's a question that we get very often. You know, does this particular vaccine cause a reaction more than another one? Does this one by this company cause it more often? What do I do if I see one? Let's talk a little bit about how common those are.
Vaccine reactions have not been common lately. They are actually less common now as opposed to 20 years ago when I started. They're more common back then. There is a significant difference from horse to horse and pharmaceutical company to pharmaceutical company in the fact that one horse may react severely bad, as in swelling and fever, to a particular company's vaccine, but have no reaction to another one. Why is that? The vaccines are made with the killed virus most times, more times that than a modified live is the other type of vaccine. They're made with a killed virus, and what that virus does is it needs to be driven into the immune system by something they call an adjuvant. It's the driver that helps boost that immune system. And that adjuvant is different from company to company. That's why they're so unique when they market their vaccines. That is usually the reason the horses react. So let's go down to reactions. You'll usually see, if you're going to get a reaction at all, fever, swelling in that area, and then the worst case scenario would be an abscess in the area. Only abscesses I see lately, sorry guys, are when the owners are given the vaccine. I, in 20 years, have never seen an abscess on a horse that I vaccinated, unless they went to a different vet, but I don't think so because they're still all clients of mine from 20 years ago. But I have not seen a reaction from one that abscessed from one I gave. And I think it is where they gave it and how they gave it.
So that's the difference. That's what makes the owners create abscesses, is where they gave it, like on a dirty location or in the wrong part of the muscle. What?
Both. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The
most recent one I have, and I've actually got video of it. We're trying to get it up on our website of us lancing it so people can see what it can come to, was one given between the muscle layers of the rear end of a horse. They never got it into the muscle. So this horse never got vaccinated because it never got into the bloodstream. And I don't say you give it IV or in the bloodstream, but it has to be in the muscle that can absorb up through the bloodstream the vaccine in order to prompt the immune response. This one was given between the two muscles in what we call the fascial plane and sat in there, festered. And it took almost 6 weeks for it to come to the surface and pop out. And that horse was pretty lame and pretty ouchy.
Ew.
Yeah, and that was given by the owner, and the owner was videotaping it and goes, oh, so you want this, doc, so you can put it on your website and tell clients, don't vaccinate your own horses, let me do it. And I said, absolutely. This is a good reason. She was really good about the whole thing. But yeah, absolutely. Given in the wrong area can cause abscesses.
Wow.
This is great.
Wow. Yeah.
This is going to be a great video to see after breakfast.
Yeah, it's one of kind of like that largest zit video that's on the YouTube. Yeah, you know, it's the same thing. Big pus pocket all flying out after we lance it. Yeah.
Oh, great.
I don't know if you've seen the biggest zit on YouTube, but there's one about the biggest zit on YouTube, and it's pretty disgusting.
Oh, yeah, I said that's gross.
I'm kind of happy to say I haven't seen that one.
Well, then you haven't lived, Christy. You got to see it.
Okay, I'll go do a search as soon as we're done with the show. So just for fun, how many of our readers on thehorse.com would you say, we did a poll on this, and just out of curiosity, how many do you think said that they have had a vaccine reaction in one of their horses, or one or more of their horses?
I'd say less than 50%.
Jamie, what about you?
Wait. I'm sorry. I can barely hear you, so ask that question again.
I'm sorry. I'm right on the microphone, I promise. Must have a bad connection. I just said, what would be your guess out of readers on thehorse.com? How many of them do you think have a horse that has reacted to a vaccine?
I would say, we're not talking abscess. We're just talking, it could be a swelling reaction. I would say 80% because I have 5 horses and one of them reacts.
That's a good measure. Actually, Aaron, you're right. You said under 50%. It was actually 48, so it was very close. 48.
Oh, good.
Darn, that's fine.
They had
I recommend that you try a different company vaccine on your horse, honestly, because I've had to do that with a couple of my clients and go through, there's 3 or 4 marketers of vaccines out there that you can go through and try their vaccine, each one on your horse, and see which one has less reaction.
Do you have a brand recommendation, or can you not say?
I don't think I should say here on radio. And also, I'd have to call them up immediately and ask them for some money for endorsing their product.
Oh, boy. I'm just curious.
We can talk on the side about that one.
There you go. Well, just for fun, too, we had about the same percentage of people, also 48%, who said they do their own vaccines.
I believe that's probably up. If we would have done this poll last year, I think that's up from the last couple of years due to the economy. We see less vaccines appointments in my practice than we did in the last 2 years.
Sure.
We're still seeing the clients. We're still seeing them for other things, foot abscess or, occasional cough or something to that effect, but they're all doing their own vaccines now.
Right. Now, as far as which vaccines people are using, the most popular one among our readers, the one that's most commonly given, was tetanus at 90%. West Nile virus was actually right behind that at 89%. And let's see, Eastern and Western Venezuelan encephalomyelitis at 86%. And then they start going down a little bit more, flu at 74%, rabies at 68%, and equine herpes virus at 65%. So is that about what you'd recommend, or any of the diseases kind of underprotected against?
Yeah, well, I'd like to make a comment on the rabies percentage, and I believe the problem with that is when I first got out, 20 years ago, was practicing, we didn't have a rabies vaccine for horses. We used the dog and cat one. So we really didn't know how much protection we were giving the horse, but they felt that it was doing a good job. So I think a lot of veterinarians were not on board with using the vaccine, the dog and cat vaccine, with horses. So that one was probably not as pushed as much.
Is it a different vaccine, or is it just a higher dose? Because, humans get rabies vaccines, too. Are all of these different, or is it just the killed virus in each one of them?
They're different in the way that they're driven into the immune system of the animal. And you have to consider rabies, and encephalitis is the other one. This probably rolls into another question you have, Christy, is that those can't really be tested, because if you infect an animal with encephalitis or you infect an animal with rabies and test them to see if the vaccine, so let's say you got a group of controls and a group of those that have had the vaccine, and you infect them with the disease to see if they come down with it, you still have to clean the stalls. So you have people in there at a risk of getting hurt or infected or something like that, cleaning stalls on horses that have been infected with rabies and encephalitis. Those are public health concerns that don't allow us to easily track the abilities of vaccines. So it makes it harder for them to test it on live animals, except for our clinical experience, what we're doing out in the field. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, having personal experience with vaccine and not vaccine rabies horses. So when you give a horse a rabies vaccine, because I know here in Kentucky, rabies vaccine is sold over the counter. In Pennsylvania, where I'm from, it's not allowed. A vet has to administer the vaccine at all times. but there is available now a proper, quote, horse rabies vaccine,
Yes, there is.
even
Yes,
though
there is.
that they still sell the dog one
Yes.
to be given to horses. That's really not the ideal situation because it is different.
Yes, and the horse vaccine is a 1 cc, 1 ml dose, and the other dogs and cats one are the 2 cc's. So they think doubling it up for the size of the animal is enough to prompt an immune response in the horse.
But there's really no scientific data that says that. It's just, okay, we're just going to make an
Clinical
extrapolation.
applications, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Okay. And
Most horses that get infected by rabies have never been vaccinated for rabies.
Okay, because I would recommend to people from personal experience, get your horse vaccinated for rabies and do it every single year.
I agree, because they don't want to have the disease, because it's a horrible disease to watch a horse have, but secondly, 9 times out of 10, those horses show up with a fever, and you're putting your hands in their mouth by giving them an antibiotic, and now you've just exposed yourself to rabies.
Well, that's kind of the storyline that I had, in that the horse was, we thought exposed, the horse was exposed to a rabid animal, and there was nobody to see the exposure, so we didn't know if the horse, what the risk factor was. The horse was like 2 weeks past the due date of her rabies vaccine.
Oh, my.
But by the time I found out all this information, I had been exposed to the animal, and other people in my family had been exposed to the animal, not knowing all this. So it was kind of a freaky out, sweat your palms couple of weeks. It was not worth it.
Including me, by the way. I was one of those
Glenn.
other.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's one. Put that on your Road Apple applications. You know, and put the reminder to get the rabies vaccine on there.
I agree.
I agree. I think we're all in agreement. All right, so I have a couple of questions. We're going to play Stump Jamie and Glenn just for a moment. Well, hopefully we're not stumping you.
That won't be hard.
We're going to start with a little bit easier one. Can you tell us, do you know what a Coggins is?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
It's a
Oh, you
blood
want to
test for
say what it is?
Yes. You can't just say yes. That's cheating.
All right, Glenn, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, it's a piece of paper that horse husbands know that you have to go to horse shows.
I love
Oh, that's right, isn't it? I mean, I'm right.
It's like a driver's license, right? It allows them to get into the show.
Exactly, and then we get blamed if you don't have it because you were supposed to bring it and we were supposed to know that you were supposed to have it. So you learn that very early on when you're a horse husband. You have to have that Coggins test, and you're responsible even though you don't know anything about it. There, that was a good answer.
Follow that up. I mean, I was going to give you the real answer, but I can't follow that, so, move on.
Well, Christy, if you don't mind, I want to share the story that I talked to you about earlier. And I had a client call me, and, he's an older gentleman. He's been into horses just a little bit of time, and he loves his pasture pets. They're just pasture pets. And he acquired 2 donkeys. And he got them from some rescue place of some sort, and he talked to me about coming out and getting the vaccines done. I said, great. I said, do they come with the Coggins? And he said, no, but I said, well, you really should have their Coggins done. And he said, well, you inoculated my other 2 horses for Coggins, so that, my horses should be fine. And I said, no, it's not a vaccine. It's a blood test that tests for an immune-deficient disease that is transferred by stable flies. So if you put 2 horses in the same pasture with your 2 horses, the flies will jump from one horse to the other very easily and transfer that disease. He got a little nervous, and I was out there the next day pulling the Coggins.
So he thought it was actually a vaccine, not just a test to see if the horse had equine infectious anemia.
Exactly.
So that's why we threw that into the show. We want to make sure that that's clear for everybody. And yes, Glenn, you're absolutely right. That paper is very, very important. But I didn't do what it was. Okay, so for our next
I knew
question.
that.
You did. You're awesome.
I need to add that to Horse Husbands 101 class, though. That's a good point. I need to write that down.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right, Christy, I think we have time for one more.
That's all I got, so we're good. What is a titer? Do you know?
Glenn, do you have a funny answer for this one?
Nothing that I can say on the air. No, I better
titer
not.
would be a titer would be like to get a titer, say, if you're trying to see. Okay, to get more specific, there's a friend of mine has never vaccinated her horses for, I think, rhino, because if she is to move down to Portugal or wherever she wants to go and move with her horses, they take blood titers to see if there's any of that vaccine, rhino, in her blood. Now, of course, it could be exposure or the vaccine, and so you check the titers, right, and that's check their blood to see how much is in the system. Is that a dumb answer?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Basically, it shows how much immune response the horse got from either exposure to the disease or the vaccine. The unfortunate side to it is that we have not created the levels, or not created, but studied the levels that are proper for a horse to have. So if somebody wants me to pull titers, which is a common question from my homeopathic clientele, is they want titers pulled to see if their horse has enough protection for the encephalitis disease, especially here in Florida. There is nothing to say that 20, 200, or 2,000 is the cutoff. We don't have enough data to say your horse is fully protected. If it's 0, you can say it's not protected at all. But if it's 20, 200, 2,000, we really can't determine that is enough of a response for your particular horse to prompt a response if they were challenged with that disease, such as a mosquito bite, to pass the encephalitis. So that's that. I just wanted to clarify that titers are not commonly used yet in equine. If somebody wants to sponsor that, I'm sure there's plenty of internal medicine people who would love to have their foundation money to research that.
And there's another answer. There's another answer for titers, and that is, it's a Christmas answer, actually, because you're eating a whole lot of cookies this time of year, and your jeans just don't fit because they're tighter.
Okay.
Well, there you go. If you love listening to Glenn the Geek and Jamie putting in their 2 cents on horse health topics, tune into the Horses in the Morning Show Wednesdays at 10 for a weekly fix of up-to-the-minute horse health information from thehorse.com. Also, you can listen to more of thehorse.com's tips in shortened form like this. Just go to horsetipdaily.com and go to the experts drop-down menu on the left. All of the experts are right there, alphabetized and easy to find. Also, you can go to thehorse.com website and find a motherlode of horse health information covering just about every topic imaginable. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover. You can subscribe to all of the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.